Welcome to today's Explainer. Think about the media you've consumed just in the last 24 hours. You might have watched, say, a massive, big-budget superhero movie, a fascinating wildlife documentary, maybe a really catchy commercial for a new smartphone, and of course, your favorite YouTube travel vlog. Visually, structurally, emotionally, they all feel completely different, right? But here's the crazy part. They all rely on the exact same fundamental principles of moving images and sound. Okay, let's dive into this. Because if they all use cameras, lighting, and editing software, what actually separates these incredibly diverse formats? Like, what makes a commercial completely different from a documentary before you even pick up a camera or write a single line of script? Well, today we're going to look at why choosing your exact format is literally the very first creative decision any professional makes. Here is our mental roadmap for today's Explainer. First, the filmmaking foundation. Then, the 7 film types. After that, one story, many styles. Then we'll cover avoiding common beginner mistakes, and finally, thinking like a pro. And I promise you, we are going to move quickly from these abstract theories right into a totally practical, creative sandbox.
Section 1. The Filmmaking Foundation.
So everything in this space starts with an idea. But an idea isn't a film yet. It's like you can't just start building a house without knowing if it's going to be a sprawling mega mansion or a tiny little cabin in the woods. We have to establish our core definition first. A film type is a category that describes the purpose, the style, and the structure of a production. It helps you figure out exactly how to tell the story, and it signals to the audience what they should expect. And please, absolutely do not confuse film type with genre. Genres are things like action, comedy, horror, romance. Think of genre as the flavor, but the film type, that is the structural container holding the whole shebang together.
Section 2. The 7 film types.
Let's start by looking at this really stark dichotomy at the heart of filmmaking. On one side, we've got narrative films. These are fiction. Think feature films, web series, your favorite TV dramas. These are imagined stories using written dialogue, conflict, and actors. The primary goal is simply to entertain and take you on an emotional journey. But then, on the flip side, we have documentary films, nonfiction. This is where reality actually becomes the story. You're exploring real people, real places, real events. So instead of imagined scenes, you're using interviews, archival footage, and real-life observations to inform, to investigate, or to help viewers just better understand the world around them. Next up, we have commercials and advertisements. These are short, highly persuasive films created to promote a product, a service, or a brand. And the real key takeaway here is the sheer density of a commercial. Even though it might last only, 30 seconds? Every single second is intensely engineered to capture your attention. Because of that, a 30-second commercial often requires the exact same massive planning and feature film production quality as a 2-hour movie.
Moving right along, let's talk about music videos. This type obviously combines a song with visual storytelling. Sometimes they tell a complete narrative story from start to finish, and other times they focus purely on a high-energy performance, crazy choreography, or just striking artistic imagery. The big takeaway here is that the visuals are entirely designed to heavily amplify the emotional resonance of the audio track. The music is the absolute master here, and the visuals serve it.
Rounding out our list, let's group these final 3 formats together. We have corporate and educational films. These are all about clear communication, training employees, or getting a message across for a business or a school. Then there's experimental films. These intentionally break all the traditional storytelling rules. They explore abstract concepts, breaking the norm, challenging the audience. And finally, animation, which creates the illusion of movement to entertain audiences of literally all ages.
Section 3. One story, many styles. Now, what's really interesting about this next concept is how fluid an idea can be.
Let's put this theory into a practical sandbox using a super simple everyday story. A student misses the bus. Watch how rapidly this core concept totally transforms. If it's a narrative film, we hire actors to perform a dramatic, suspenseful scene of running down the street as the bus pulls away. If it's a documentary, we sit the real student down for a gritty interview about the daily struggles of public transport. A commercial? Suddenly, missing the bus is the problem, and a brand new transit app is the solution we're advertising. A music video turns that missed bus into an emotional, choreographed dance sequence right there on the sidewalk. And a corporate video, that turns the exact same event into a straightforward safety training presentation on the importance of arriving on time. Same exact event, but a totally different purpose, style, and audience.
Actually,
I want to pause for a second and highlight the experimental format specifically, because this brilliantly illustrates how creatively abstract a simple, mundane event can become. If we took the missed bus concept and made it an experimental film, we throw out the plot entirely. We're not watching a student run. Instead, we're just expressing the sheer raw stress of the moment, maybe through extreme slow-motion textures, flashing lights, abstract visuals. Suddenly, missing a bus becomes this profound emotional exploration.
Section 4. Avoiding common beginner mistakes. Once you understand the power of these types, you can quickly see a massive beginner trap people fall into. They try to make every single project look like a Hollywood blockbuster, completely ignoring the actual purpose of the film. Notice the contrast here. The amateur approach puts gear before purpose. They ask, hey, what camera should I use first? This leads to a confusing mix of styles, like trying to make a gritty documentary look like a glossy commercial, which just destroys its authenticity and leaves you with an entirely unclear message. The professional approach, however, always starts by defining the film type. Only then do they plan the approach, which guarantees absolute clarity in their storytelling. Defining the film type is your anchor for every single creative decision that follows.
Section 5. Thinking like a pro.
To really lock in this professional mindset, a mindset that's going to govern your future creative workflows, it all comes down to this ultimate guiding mantra. What kind of story am I telling, and who is it for? Professionals do not start with lenses. They don't start with lighting gear or special effects software. They start with this single, profound question, and the answer to it shapes absolutely every decision that follows, from your budget to the script to the location, right down to the final edit.
And that brings us to the end of our explainer. But before we go, I want to leave you with a bit of a challenge. Next time you sit down to watch anything, whether you're scrolling social media, watching a streaming service, or even just catching a commercial during a game, I challenge you to actively analyze it. Can you identify its core film type and its underlying purpose before the actual story even gets going? By applying this new lens to the world, you are going to start seeing the structural matrix behind absolutely everything you watch. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and keep bringing that curiosity to everything you learn.